Listen, you want to know how to fix income inequality, wealth distribution? It's not fucking rocket science. We've done it before. Other countries have done it before, in fact. It's something we know the answer to. Now, to understand the concept, I'm going to use the Fed as an example real quick. The Fed has two mandates. That's to keep inflation low and employment high. When unemployment starts going up, they lower interest rates. This makes money more accessible, cheaper to borrow. Startups can actually start up, and big businesses can get the money they need to expand. They start hiring more people, unemployment goes down. After a while, so much money enters the system that inflation starts to go up. When inflation starts to go up, they start to raise rates. That makes money more expensive to borrow, and then companies have to start tightening their belts, and eventually at a certain point they have to start laying people off. Unemployment starts going up, so then they lower rates again, and the cycle keeps going. It's an elegant tool that they use the supply of money to control these two massive factors in the economy. Wealth distribution, income inequality, whatever you want to call it, real wages, can be controlled by a very similar tool, and that's the labor supply. Now, to understand this, I want you to go back to 1864. Civil War is kind of winding down. We've lost over 500,000 working-age men, and the Industrial Revolution's taken off, both literally and figuratively. Congress knows that if the country's going to survive, they need workers, and they need a lot of them, and preferably cheap ones. But they passed the 1864 Act to encourage immigration. People come flooding in from Europe seeking better lives and opportunity. At this time, Cornelius Vanderbilt, he's the richest guy in the country. He's worth about $9 billion in today's money. Top 1% of the country owns 25% of the nation's wealth. Jump ahead to 1924. We've seen the Gilded Age come and go. We've seen the age of robber barons. We've seen the economy absolutely explode. We've seen blood spilt in the streets by people trying to organize labor unions, trying to fight for better wages, better and safer working conditions. We're kind of on the verge of revolution. Then in 1924, at that time, the top 1% owned 45% of the nation's wealth, up from 25% in 1864. Richest guy, Henry Ford at that time, worth about $400 billion, and Carnegie and Rockefeller weren't too far behind him. The ceiling on how rich a person could get wasn't just raised, it was blasted through. So in 1924, they passed the Johnson-Reed Act. That shuts the border down to basically a trickle of what it was. In the next 4 decades, by 1965, we have an exploding middle class. Wages have massively increased. The top 1% owns just 20% of the nation's wealth. The wealthiest guy in the country, J. Paul Getty, he's worth about $9 billion. This is what economists refer to as the Great Compression, because the distance between the classes greatly compressed. The rich were still getting richer, but so were the middle class and working class, and even the poor. In 1965, they passed the Hart-Celler Act. It reopens the borders. Within about 7 years, that's a point where most economists say is where real wages started to stagnate. And today, have actually started to decline. Today, the richest person in the country, the world, is Elon Musk. Last time I checked, he's worth about $700 billion. The top 1% owns about 35% of the nation's wealth. So in these 3 time periods, we've seen immigration go up and wages go down. Then immigration go down and wages go up. And then immigration go up and wages go back down. This relationship between immigration and wages is consistent through these 3 time periods. And it's also been observed in Canada, Argentina, Australia, among other places that have seen great influxes of immigration. Now, this isn't a racist or xenophobic observation. It's a fact that where the Fed controls the supply of money through interest rates, we can also control the supply of labor through border control. The law of supply and demand says that if you have a lot of something, it's not going to be worth very much. So if you don't have a lot of labor, labor is going to be worth more. But if you have a constant free flow of new people coming into the workforce and the labor supply is always at maximum, wages are naturally going to decrease. And this is why Democrats on the left, for 100 years, were the party of the working and middle class, the party of labor unions. Because 2 of their biggest stances were strict limits on immigration and also a protectionist stance on free trade, which kept businesses from shipping good jobs overseas. Now, it might not be a popular, politically correct stance, but it is a solution to the problem. And the more people know that, the more they can understand that, we can work on reframing the immigration issue from a moral issue, which aspects of it are, but back to an economic issue. Ruminate on that.